The morning light in Lancaster had a softness that always calmed me. It slipped through the kitchen curtains, like a memory, touching the old oak table where I'd shared thousands of breakfasts with my family. I poured myself a cup of coffee dark roast, no sugar, and sat by the window, watching the fog lift from the cornfields beyond the fence. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. After my husband Robert passed away 3 years ago, silence became both a comfort and a wound. I filled it with small rituals, watering the ferns, polishing the old furniture, organizing my late husband's tools in the shed, though I never used them. This house had stood for nearly 60 years, and every creak of its wooden floors seemed to echo our past conversations. My son Daniel still visited sometimes. He was 39 now, a construction foreman who liked to pretend he had everything under control. In truth, he'd been tense lately, short-tempered, restless. When I asked how work was going, he only said, "Fine, Mom," and changed the subject. My daughter, Claire, had moved back in 6 months ago after her divorce. She was quieter than Daniel, her sadness like a fog that never lifted. At 38, she still called me Mommy when she needed something, and that tenderness always broke my heart a little. That morning, while I was rinsing my mug, I noticed the faintest hum, like the low buzz of a bee caught in a jar. I frowned, turned off the faucet, and listened. The sound was coming from behind the kitchen wall, near the light switch. It pulsed irregularly, sharp one moment and soft the next. Then, the overhead light flickered twice and went still. Strange. I made a mental note to call the old electrical company that had installed our wiring decades ago. But when I mentioned it to Daniel later that afternoon, his reaction startled me. "Don't call them," he said quickly, almost snapping. "Those guys overcharge for nothing. I'll send someone I know." "Someone you know?" I asked. "Yeah, a friend. Best electrician in town, Victor Hale. He'll stop by tomorrow morning. Just don't touch anything until then." He sounded oddly defensive, as if the idea of anyone else coming near that wall bothered him. That night, the hum grew louder. I could feel it through the floorboards when I lay in bed, a faint vibration traveling up through the mattress. The house, once my refuge, suddenly felt like it was breathing in a way it shouldn't. At sunrise, the doorbell rang. A man in a navy work shirt stood on the porch, his name stitched neatly above the pocket. Victor Hale, Electrical Services. He smiled kindly and tipped his cap. "Good morning, Mrs. Ellison. I'm here about that wiring problem." Less than an hour later, his voice would shake when he whispered the words that changed everything. "Ma'am," he said quietly, eyes pale with alarm, "get your things and get out of this house immediately. Don't tell your children anything." For a moment, I just stared at him, certain I'd misheard. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice trembling more from disbelief than fear. Victor didn't answer right away. He looked toward the kitchen doorway, as though he expected someone to appear there at any moment. Then he lowered his voice. "Mrs. Ellison, there's something in your basement that shouldn't be there. Something someone installed intentionally." I felt my pulse quicken. "Installed? You mean the wiring?" He hesitated. "Not exactly. I found a device wired into your main electrical line. It's pulling energy from the circuit and feeding it into another system hidden behind the insulation." I shook my head. "That can't be right. My son handled the renovations last year. He checked every outlet himself." Victor met my eyes steadily. "Then your son knows exactly what I'm talking about." The kitchen seemed to tilt around me. "Show me." He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "It's not easy to look at. I need to see it," I said firmly. My voice surprised me it didn't sound like my own. We went to the basement together. The stairs creaked under our feet, the air heavy with the scent of old paint and damp concrete. The hum that had haunted my nights grew louder as we descended, blending with the faint buzz of electricity. Victor's flashlight cut through the dimness, revealing the same boxes and storage bins I'd kept down there for decades. Robert's old fishing gear, Holiday decorations, photo albums. Nothing seemed out of place. Until Victor stopped at the far wall behind the furnace. He crouched and pulled aside a section of insulation. My breath caught in my throat. Hidden behind it was a small metallic box, no bigger than a toaster, its surface faintly glowing with red indicator lights. Thin copper wires ran from it into the main power conduit, and from there up toward the ceiling. "What is that?" I whispered. "It's not standard electrical equipment," Victor said grimly. "It's been rigged to deliver timed current pulses. The wiring runs straight to the upper floor, most likely your bedroom." I stepped closer, my knees weak. "What would that do?" He glanced at me, then back at the device. "Prolonged exposure to these pulses can disrupt heart rhythm, sleep patterns, and neurological function. It's like being slowly electrocuted in doses too small to detect." My mind rebelled against his words. "That's insane. You're saying someone's trying to—" "Yes," he interrupted quietly. "Someone wired this to harm you, Mrs. Ellison." I staggered backward, gripping the stair rail. The house that had once felt like my safest place now seemed to hum with menace. Each flicker of light a reminder that something poisonous pulsed within its walls. "Whoever did this," Victor said softly, "knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew you trusted them." I clung to the stair rail, trying to steady myself. "There must be some mistake," I whispered. "Maybe it's part of the new system Daniel installed last year. He said he wanted to modernize the wiring." Victor shook his head. "No electrician would install something like this in a residential home. This isn't safety equipment, it's manipulation equipment. Whoever set this up knew how to disguise it so it would look routine to anyone who didn't know what to look for." He turned his flashlight upward, tracing the copper lines that disappeared into the beams. "These wires run straight under your bedroom floor. If you've been feeling tired, dizzy, or having irregular heartbeats, this would explain it." A chill rippled through me. I thought it was just age. I've been waking up at night with palpitations, sometimes dizzy, sometimes confused. Victor nodded grimly. "That's how it's designed, to make it look like natural health decline. It's clever and cruel." I swallowed hard. "You said it was installed during the renovation. Daniel handled all of that." He looked up sharply. "When exactly was that?" "Last autumn," I said. "He insisted on redoing the basement wiring, said it was unsafe. I told him to leave it alone, but he said he'd hired a private crew from his construction company. I didn't even question it." Victor stepped back, rubbing his forehead. "That timing fits perfectly. A setup like this would take days of work and total access to the circuit lines. It wasn't done by accident or overnight." A thought came to me, sharp and painful. Claire moved back in right after that renovation ended. "Does she go into the basement?" Victor asked. "Sometimes. She keeps old boxes down here." I paused. "She studied biomedical engineering before she got married. She's always been fascinated by how the body reacts to electricity." He exhaled slowly, a grim realization crossing his face. "Mrs. Ellison, the person who designed this system understands both electrical engineering and biology. They know how much current a human heart can take before failure." The words lodged in my chest like glass. I looked around the basement, the place where I'd done laundry, where my children used to play hide and seek, and it no longer felt like part of my home. It felt like a trap. "I don't believe my children would ever hurt me," I said weakly. Victor's voice softened. "I know. That's what every parent wants to believe. But facts don't lie. Whoever installed this has been slowly hurting you for months." I pressed a trembling hand against the wall. The faint hum was still there, steady, merciless. "How long?" I asked. "Until it kills me." He met my eyes. "If we hadn't found it today, maybe a few more months, maybe less." Upstairs, I heard a soft thud, the sound of footsteps. Claire was awake. Victor's expression hardened. "You can't stay here another hour. We need to get you out now." For a long moment, I stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, staring into the dim space that had become unrecognizable to me. The hum behind the wall seemed louder now, like the heartbeat of something malignant hiding inside my home. Victor touched my arm gently. "Mrs. Ellison, listen to me. We have to move quickly. Whoever did this might come down here any minute. You need to grab your essentials identification, financial papers, medications, and leave. Don't try to confront anyone." I could barely find my voice. "If I just leave, they'll know something's wrong." He met my eyes, calm but firm. "Better that they suspect you're upset than find out you've discovered their plan. Once they realize that, they'll have nothing to lose." I felt my stomach twist. "Claire's upstairs. She'll see me packing. Tell her you're going to the pharmacy or visiting a friend. Keep your tone normal. I'll stay near the kitchen and make sure she doesn't follow you." I nodded shakily and climbed the stairs. Each step groaned beneath my feet, echoing in my ears like a countdown. The sunlight through the hallway windows looked too bright, almost mocking. In my bedroom, I opened the small wall safe behind the framed photo of Robert. My hands trembled as I pulled out the envelope with my will, the deed to the farmhouse, insurance papers, and a stack of savings bonds. I stuffed them into my leather handbag along with a few clothes, my jewelry box, and a photograph of my children when they were little, both laughing, both innocent. "Mom?" Claire's voice floated from the hallway. "Are you up? I thought I heard someone downstairs." I froze. "It's the electrician," I called, forcing a steady tone. "He's fixing the wiring." "Oh." Her voice softened. "Do you want me to make some tea?" "No, sweetheart, I'm fine." I paused, then added, "I might go out for a bit later, just to get some air." "Okay, Mom," she said lightly, but there was something off in her tone, too sweet, too careful. I zipped my bag and glanced around the room one last time. This place, once my sanctuary, now felt suffocating. When I reached the kitchen, Victor was pretending to tighten a fixture near the sink. Claire was in the living room scrolling through her phone. Her eyes flicked toward us, curious but not suspicious. "I'm heading out for a while," I said casually, holding my handbag. "Need a ride?" she offered. "No, I'll manage," I replied with a small smile. As soon as the front door closed behind me, Victor followed, toolbox in hand. He guided me quickly toward his van, parked across the street. Only when we were safely inside did I exhale, my entire body trembling. "Where are we going?" I whispered. Victor started the engine. "Somewhere quiet where we can talk." "And then," he said, glancing in the rearview mirror, "we figure out how to prove what's been happening to you before they realize you're gone." We drove in silence for several miles, the farmhouse shrinking in the distance, until it vanished behind the rolling Pennsylvania fields. I couldn't stop shaking. Every memory of laughter, every Christmas morning, every night I tucked my children into bed, all of it felt poisoned now. Victor pulled into a small diner on the edge of town, the kind of place where no one asked questions, and the smell of coffee lingered in the air. We sat in a corner booth far from the windows. I wrapped my hands around a warm mug, as if it could steady me. He spoke first. "We can't go to the police yet, not without evidence they can hold in court. Right now it's your word against your children's, and they'll call it delusion. We need something undeniable, photos, recordings, documents." I swallowed hard. "So you're saying we go back?" He nodded slowly. "I'll go. They know me as the electrician. It won't seem strange if I stop by again, claiming I forgot a tool or need to check a connection." The thought of him returning there made me sick with worry. "They're dangerous, Victor." He gave me a faint smile. "So am I when it comes to justice." After lunch, he drove me to a quiet roadside motel near the highway. The sign read, "Meadow Inn weekly rates available." The clerk barely looked up when Victor paid in cash and signed the room under his name. Room 12 smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and loneliness. "Stay here," he instructed. "Lock the door. If they call or text, answer like everything's normal. Don't tell them where you are." I nodded. "And you?" "I'll be back before dark," he said, with proof. When the door closed behind him, I felt the silence press down like a physical weight. I sat on the bed clutching my handbag, staring at the floral wallpaper that blurred through my tears. For the first time in my life, I was afraid of my own children. Hours crawled by. At 4 o'clock, my phone buzzed Claire's name on the screen. "Mom, where are you?" Daniel says the electrician came back. "Are you okay?" I typed back quickly. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just running errands." "What errands?" she replied within seconds. "Want me to meet you?" The kindness in her words felt rehearsed now, a language of deceit I no longer recognized. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. I typed, "No need. I'll be home later." At 6, Victor finally called. His voice was tense. "Mrs. Ellison, I got the evidence, photos, recordings, even something written. But there's more." They were talking in the kitchen while I was in the basement. My heart pounded. What did they say? They know something's wrong. They said you're acting strange. And worse, Claire told Daniel, it's time to speed things up. "Speed things up?" I repeated, my voice cracking. "Yes," he said quietly. "They're planning something tonight." My grip tightened around the phone. "Tonight?" I whispered. "What do you mean, tonight?" Victor's voice came through low and urgent. "I don't know the details yet, but they talked about a final step. Daniel mentioned a fuse trip or something that would end things quickly. Whatever it is, you can't go anywhere near that house again." The air in the motel room felt thin. "They're my children," I murmured, though the words sounded hollow now. "Right now, they're people who have convinced themselves you're worth more dead than alive," Victor said flatly. "You have to accept that before we can keep you safe." I sank onto the bed, my heart hammering. "What do we do?" "I'm heading to the police," he said. "But I want you ready in case they find you before I get there. Don't open the door for anyone. Keep your phone close, and if anything feels wrong, call me or 911 immediately." I promised I would, but promises don't stop fear from crawling under your skin. An hour passed, then another. The motel's neon sign flickered through the curtains like a warning light. I tried to distract myself by watching TV, but every sound outside made me jump. At 8:17 p.m., my phone buzzed again. A text unknown number. "Mrs. Ellison, we know you're at the Meadow Inn, room 12. Please come out. Let's talk before things get worse." My blood turned to ice. I checked the peephole, nothing. Just the dark parking lot and the pale light of the vending machine outside. Another message came seconds later, this one from Claire. "Mom, please, we're here. We just want to help you. You've been confused lately. Come home. Let us take care of you." I backed away from the door, shaking. They'd found me. The phone rang again, Victor. "Don't open that door," he said before I could speak. "I'm 5 minutes away. I called the police already. Stay away from the windows." But as I peeked through the curtain, headlights swept across the lot. A familiar silver truck pulled in Daniel's. He got out slowly, scanning the row of rooms. Claire followed behind him, her blonde hair tied back, her movements careful, almost rehearsed. "They're here," I whispered. Victor's voice hardened. "There's a back exit near the ice machine. Go, now." I grabbed my purse and slipped out through the rear hallway. The night air was cold against my skin, the gravel biting beneath my shoes. At the far end of the lot, Victor's van appeared, headlights flashing twice. I sprinted toward it. When I climbed in, breathless, he floored the gas pedal. "They know everything," I said, trembling. "They said I was confused, that I imagined it all." Victor kept his eyes on the road. "That's how they'll defend themselves. But tonight, we'll make sure the truth speaks louder than their lies." The van sped through the narrow Pennsylvania backroads, headlights slicing through the mist that had rolled in from the fields. Victor's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I sat beside him, clutching my handbag, feeling the weight of my documents, my will, my life, everything my children had tried to erase. "We're heading straight to the county police," Victor said. "I've already forwarded the photos and recordings to the detective I spoke with. They're setting up an intercept near Route 23. We'll be safe soon." But as we turned a corner, I saw something in the rearview mirror, a pair of headlights following us. Close. Too close. They're behind us, I whispered. Victor's jaw tightened. Stay down. He pressed harder on the gas. The van roared down the empty road, but the silver truck behind us matched every move. I could see Daniel's face through the windshield, calm, cold, determined. Claire was beside him, talking frantically on her phone. They're calling someone, Victor muttered, maybe trying to find out where the police are. My heart pounded. They'll never stop. They will, he said, eyes narrowing. Tonight, just ahead, flashing red and blue lights appeared through the fog. 2 patrol cars blocked the intersection. Victor slowed, raising one hand out the window. The officer stepped forward, but Daniel's truck suddenly veered, trying to turn around. Before he could, another cruiser pulled in from behind, cutting him off. Step out of the vehicle, a voice shouted through a megaphone. Victor pulled over, and I saw Daniel freeze. For the first time, there was fear in his eyes. Claire's lips were moving rapidly, insisting something, shaking her head. Within seconds, officers surrounded their truck, guns drawn. Claire stepped out first, her voice shrill. This is a misunderstanding. Our mother's sick, she's delusional. I opened my door, trembling but resolute. Sick? I called out, my voice breaking but clear. You made me sick. You tried to kill me. Both of them turned toward me. Daniel's expression hardened into something unrecognizable, a mask of contempt. Claire's face crumpled, but not from guilt, from anger at being caught. The officers began searching the truck. One of them held up a small metal box wrapped in duct tape and wires. Another found a notebook on the seat pages filled with voltage calculations and notes labeled Phase 4, Termination. Looks like we've got our proof, the lead detective said quietly to Victor. As they handcuffed Daniel and Claire, I stood still, shaking from head to toe. Claire looked at me, her eyes full of rage and disbelief. You ruined everything, she hissed. I wanted to cry, to scream, to ask her why, but no words came. Only silence. Victor placed a steady hand on my shoulder. It's over, he said softly. And for the first time in months, the night was quiet. No hum, no flicker, no lies. Only the sound of justice, humming steady through the dark. 6 months have passed since that night, yet I still wake sometimes expecting to hear the faint electrical hum through the walls. Then I remember I no longer live in that house. The farmhouse where I raised my children, where I buried my husband, where I almost lost my life, is gone. I sold it 2 months after the trial ended. I couldn't bear the silence of those rooms or the smell of burned dust from the wires they'd hidden. The court proceedings were long and painful. Daniel sat in his gray suit, staring at the floor most of the time, showing no remorse. His lawyer argued desperation that the gambling debts and the pressure from loan sharks had driven him mad. Claire's defense was colder. She blamed her brother, claimed she'd only helped him out of fear. But the evidence was overwhelming. Victor's photographs, the voice recordings, and the notebook full of voltage logs and health notes erased every doubt. When the verdict came, the courtroom felt like a tomb. Daniel received 25 years in prison with no parole for 15. Claire got 18 years for attempted murder and conspiracy. I didn't cry when the judge read the sentence. I had run out of tears months earlier. After the trial, Victor helped me move north to Erie, near the lake. He said the air would be good for my heart. He was right. The days here are quieter, the sunsets softer. I've started painting again, something I hadn't done since Robert died. The colors on the canvas remind me that life, even after betrayal, can still hold beauty. Sometimes Victor visits on weekends. We sit on the porch, drinking tea, watching the gulls circle above the water. We rarely talk about that night anymore. We talk about small things, gardens, books, the smell of rain. But every once in a while, our eyes meet, and I know we're both remembering how close death came to finding me, and how a stranger's intuition changed everything. I've learned that family is not defined by blood, but by the safety you feel in someone's presence. Love is not what people say, it's what they protect. The people who love you will never make you afraid to breathe in your own home. When I close my eyes at night, I sometimes still hear Victor's voice from that first morning, calm, urgent, unforgettable. Get your things and get out. Don't tell your children anything. Those words saved my life. Now, when the wind hums through the trees outside my new window, it no longer sounds like danger. It sounds like warning and wisdom, the echo of a truth learned too late but lived well after. Evil can hide in familiar faces, but salvation often comes from a stranger brave enough to tell you to run.